Welcome back, everyone. It is time for a Pounds for Purrs workout, which was done yesterday. So it was day 2 and switching from an upper body focused workout to lower body. And I started off with a cardio warm-up. My intention was to go to an elliptical, but someone was on it, and that's okay. I decided to opt for the Crossramp, in which I did a half mile for 6 minutes and 21 seconds. From there, I went over to the squat rack and began to warm up. For the warm-up, I decided to go to an old progression that I haven't done in a very long time, and that's delineating sets, so increasing the weight and decreasing the reps. So I started off with the barbell, the empty barbell for 10 reps, 95 pounds for 8 reps, 135 for 6 reps, 185 for 4 reps, and then I went to my working weight, which was 225. For the workout, just like last time, I did 10 sets, 5 repetitions, 90 seconds of rest in between sets, and a very, very strict 90 seconds. With this style of training, you want to really make sure you're on top of your recovery times and not allowing yourself to rest more than you need to. So for this one, you want 90 seconds, and if you can help it, not to go above it, especially when you're starting off. So you really have to be mindful of where you begin. And for me, 225 is a very easy, comfortable weight. When I've run this program in the past, that's been my go-to for my starting point. And there was even one time where it just felt so easy and almost too easy, so I started off at 245 instead. But that was also at a very different time when I was training constantly. The back squat was always included in no matter what I was doing, so it was a bit different. Now this time around, it's still very comfortable, just started to get a little bit challenging towards the end, which is absolutely fine, totally understandable. I wasn't lifting with a mask before, and I didn't have a long break, so that's okay. I'm coming back to it, and this is absolutely perfect for my first week back at the program, which is quite demanding. I said that last time, and it's worth saying again, just because you're taking 2 big compound movements, 2 opposing movements, and doing a lot of volume at a relatively high pace, so you have to be careful with not going too heavy too soon. Now for the squat, good reps. I'm happy with the depth, and of course it's going with 225, so it shouldn't be difficult at all. One thing that I will say is that I decided to go a little bit wider in my stance than usual, mainly because I toyed around with the idea of going to a wide stance squat, which has never been my focus, but something that I have done in the past as a secondary mover for the squat or as just a variation. And I never really dug deep with the wide stance, especially when it came to going towards like a powerlifting style of training. I just never did it. I've always been stronger and more comfortable with the narrow stance, and this time around I just decided to open up a little bit, widen out the feet, turn the toes out a little bit, and I kind of liked it. It was very comfortable, and it's good to know that I have another variation that is not only easy for me to do, but also something that can offer me just a little bit of a different benefit. And so with this one, by widening out the stance a little bit more, by turning the toes out a little bit, I can hit different aspects of the legs. So will I stick with this? I don't know. I'm not sure. I very well might, but I could also see myself just going back to my default narrow stance, so I could really go either way. But at the end of the day, I think it's good that I just go out a little bit wider, but not too wide. And the main reason why I'm not going to the wide stance is just because I am going back to Sumo Deadlift, so I don't want to do 2 wide stance exercises, especially 2 big lower body focused exercises back to back, which would just be probably a bit too much and would most likely burn out my hips. So that's why I'm staying with a relatively narrow stance, just a little bit of an adjustment from my typical way of squatting. But again, it was nice. I liked it, and who knows, maybe I will stay with it. But it's something that I've always kind of thought about going to a wide stance. But I'll save that for another time. For now, I just want to make sure that I get a lot of good work capacity done with this current stance, whether it's narrow stance or with this one right here, which is kind of like a bit of a hybrid, but a little bit closer towards a narrow stance or about a shoulder width stance. Okay, sumo deadlift. Just like the squat, I did a very similar warm-up where I did 8 reps with 135, 6 reps with 185, 4 reps with 225, 3 reps with 275, and now you're seeing my 10x5 with 315. And in the past, it would just go so easily that when I jumped from 225 to 245 for squat as a starting off point, I went from 315 to 335 for deadlift. This time around, wasn't quite as easy. Don't get me wrong, these are fast reps, and 315 felt like, well, the way 315 really should feel, but it was just a little bit different this time around. And especially coming back to the style of training, I haven't done this in so long, probably going on almost 3 years, definitely at least 2.5, probably closer to 3 years. So of course, it will have a bit of a different training a stimulation on me than, let's say, going for singles. So this training response is, I love it because it really puts you in your place in terms of where your work capacity is, but also just with endurance and stamina, and I love this style of training. I don't know why it's taken me so long to go back to it. Well, because I started to get a little bit more into the heavy singles training and different modalities of training to go a little bit heavier, which, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed, and I really got into it. So coming back to this is a really good idea. I'm very happy that I'm doing it. In fact, I was very tempted to go right to this when I returned to the gym, which I'm happy and I'm thankful that I did not do, just because it would mean more frequency at the gym, and at that time I was not comfortable with going to the gym that often, and that's why it was only 3 days a week when I started. So this time around I'm a little bit more comfortable, and also now I feel more able to do this type of training, especially just considering where I have always started off in the past in terms of picking weights and exercises and things like that. So going into sumo deadlift, I was happy to go back to it just because of the fact that it's been a while. I've switched over to conventional because when I was sumo deadlifting the most, the conventional didn't get a whole lot of work. And so coming back to sumo, I'm happy. I like going with the wide stance. I like the extra work in the adductors and especially the hip flexors. So I will probably go with sumo deadlift for this program, and maybe even for another one. We'll see. But I am happy that I'm going back to it because I almost forgot how much I enjoy it. I was happy that for just the random fact that I went up to 515 again not too long ago. That was just a fun daily max that I would do for nothing more than just personal enjoyment. And now I can get some good work done with it. So now, of course, going all the way down to 315, just getting good volume, getting good practice, pretty much getting back the benefits and the development that I used to get from it. And I will go back to conventional too. That will come back sometime this year. When, I don't know. But I like them both. And I don't like to neglect one variation for too long, even though I might focus on the other. So it's very appropriate that I go back to sumo deadlift. When it came to accessory work, I did none. I didn't do anything. That's mostly because I was on a time crunch, and by the time I was finished deadlifting, I had to leave. That being said, I might throw in one, maybe two afterwards, because squatting and deadlifting in the same workout is a lot. That's a lot to do. So I might throw in, let's say, an old favorite like an RDL. Who knows? maybe a reverse lunge. I like both of those exercises that used to be staples for me, but I just haven't done them in so long, and I'd like to throw at least one of them in there, even just going really, really light, but we'll see. Alright, y'all, thank you so much, take care, and remember, adopt, don't shop.